Hey everyone, John Doyle from OptixEQ. Today I'm going to handicap the late Pick-4 at Churchill Downs. I'm not going to go through all the horses. I'm just going to kind of point some things out as an optics user you might want to look at. Again, it's all part of kind of showing you how to use and apply optics products to your handicapping. We're going to start with race 5. It's a 8-card race day at Churchill. I think it's a 5 p.m. Eastern time start, so it's on a late card. This first race, I mean, the first thing that jumps out at me as an optics user is the surface distance plot. There's only 2 horses that actually plot here, right? And you see all these other horses can't even plot because either they haven't tried or recently haven't tried the surface and distance in their career, so there's nothing to plot. And you can see the 1 and the 3 are both the favorites, and you can see the 3 plots way better than the 1, but we're going to get into that a little bit because the 1 has had some issues in terms of problems and trips that we want to take into consideration. So, but the 1 and 3 plots was, I want to also look at the 8 and the 4s, maybe other possible horses you might want to use and kind of focus on at least the 8 primarily. But let's go to the videotape. We're going to go to the grid and let's take a look at those horses. First of all, the 1. This is a horse that's 9 to 5 morning line for a really hot 8 to 5 with a hot barn, hot jockey. Sayas is getting back on this horse. 3 back, if you go back in his form cycle. Well, first of all, if you go back in this horse's form cycle, really some promising races early on, did nothing wrong, graded, 2 plays, graded 3 play winner, and then kind of went off the rails a little bit and tried to compete against much better grade 1 company. Didn't do so well. So they kind of dropped the horse back, kind of got his sea legs back. He hasn't been in the same form. And so he's a little iffy, but, he did have a better than looked effort in the Gulfstream Auctional Claimer. And then he was rank in the next race at Churchill. 3rd race off a layoff. You could, I guess expect improvements, got back class. I just not crazy about this horse, but, I can understand people getting behind this horse, but too short of a price for me. And then the other favorite, Easy Time, kind of ran his best figure ever last. So this is 2nd off a layoff. I don't know if we're going to get much more improvement. Another horse that early in his career looked like he had some promise, actually grade 2 placed. And then something went wrong because this horse hasn't gotten back to that form yet, except for that last race. Maybe there's another move forward. I'm just not sure about this horse in the distance. It's hard to bet a horse that's only wins are not on today's surface and distance. So this horse ran routing, synthetic, and sprinting and synthetic. So maybe that's the real surface of this horse. So, less enthused about this horse too. So the favorites are kind of lukewarm, especially the 3 of them, less likely to back that horse. So there might be some other opportunities here. And I thought the 8 looked a little bit interesting. Market analysis. This horse is 2nd off a layoff. Gets switched from Dioro to Sharp Barn. But if you go back 3 races, this horse was running on dirt. We projected this horse maybe better on turf. If you go back, this horse has only had 1 race on turf. It was at Canterbury. It was a win going wire to wire. Horse is forwardly placed as a small circle in quadrant 1. Maybe they try the same tactics. This horse has run fast enough, figure-wise, 97, 98 to compete here. If those horses don't run their best races, the 1 and 3, this horse is a horse that could improve. Now, if you go back that last race, wrong surface, well, I don't know about surface, but definitely the wrong distance. Sprinting, it was into a very, very fast early pace. You could see there VF, that means that's the race shape, very fast early, and then faded. The interesting jockey choice, but this guy has rode this horse before, not to success, but this is a Canterbury rider. So it's interesting to see that he gets the mount for a Sharp Barn that's pretty hot at the meet. 2nd off, you could do worse. I think this horse is kind of mildly interesting, and especially at 6 to 1. I think fair value would be 5 to 1 on a horse. And then the 4, just a horse that comes out of a strong race. Not sure if it wants turf. We had a projection of turf way back in this horse's career. Really hasn't, tried it a couple of times, one time, and got into traffic. So hard to gauge. Horse seems to been running on synthetic. Don't know if that's the right service, but came out of a strong race. And just pay attention to that horse if you kind of spread a little bit or you want to use. I don't know. I mean, it all depends on the rest of the ticket, but maybe I'm looking at using the favorite, but with the 4 and the 8 or not using the favorite. So I'm just on the fence right now. But 4 and 8, 8 especially interesting in race 5. Let's tip over the race 6. Very interesting race in the sense that we really don't have much action in quadrant 1. It's kind of an odd shaped race, right? I mean, you got the 3 up there, but there's not much in standard. It's like no one's really kind of dominating that. But, you know, this is a race that I typically would look for a strong quadrant 3 horse. There isn't one, like a square in quadrant 3 with an empty quadrant 1. The horse with the best late finish is the number 2, Test 2. I guess Test 2 is the name of that horse. So let's take a look at him a little bit more closely. And this horse is got the second best last out optics figure. And how do I know that? So let's just look at last 90 days. Let's even make it the last 45 days to make it easier. And you can see 75, 88 was the best, 86 is the second best. So he's got the second best, or tied for the second best, I guess. Yeah, tied for the second best. And this horse had kickback in his last race. And we all know it's well documented. Kickback horses perform very well the next time out. And the other thing I want to show you about this horse, to kind of where he is in his form cycle. Now, this is a 7-year-old, so you got to, you know, be a little weary sometimes. But this horse, first race off a layoff, we thought it was a prep. And he was kind of second race off the layoff, he got the kickback in traffic. Sitting third off the layoff, any kind of improvement, he's got the second best figure already. I could see in a scenario where this horse kind of gets, you know, behind a slow pace and maybe swoops him, right? So there's really not a defined pace. They could bunch up maybe possibly, and this horse could run well. I think this horse can be closer to the pace than he's been. That's why he's got that deep, you know, quadrant 4 square. But if you look at, he's coming out of races with fast paces. I guess the last one was slow. This horse, you could see, he does finish into slow paces. So I think him being closer, let's look at his wins or his exacta finishes. So you can see that he's usually like in contention for the most part when he does well into the stretch. So he might be closer up, and he definitely has the best late pace in the race. So I think he's worked a shot in this race. You know, when you're looking and considering other horses, this, you know, I'm considering this one of my keys in this race. Always a little weary when you look at this, you know, deep closing quadrant 4 with no pace in the race, but this race is absolutely no pace. And sometimes with those races, they just kind of bunch up and you're looking for the horse that can kick, almost like a lone closer type of race. So a little bit unique interpretation of the plot, but that's what I'm giving you here. Yeah, and again, that's the thing about this. I mean, you can look at this plot lots of different ways. The information is laid out for you to at least start the what if analysis, right? So that's the idea here. You're trying to use the information in a number of different ways. And instead of trying to, you know, spend all your energy getting to this kind of picture in your head, it's there for you with the plot. Okay. All right. So let's go to race 7. To me, I just think this race is obvious from a plot perspective. I just want to be on the 1 and 7 in here, right? I just think they're going to sit the trip off the 3 and the 2. The 3 is coming off a layoff. He's got speed. He's kind of a presser type. I figure they're going to send this horse. If they don't and the 2 gets loose, that's a possibility. But I just think if they do hook at any point in time and they apply enough pressure, I think it's just going to set up for the 1 and 7. I think the 1, when you look at the grid, I'm not going to go into it too much, has a little bit more on the class, you know, speed and kind of, well, let's just look at the V bars, right? Let's look at summary. Yeah, I mean, I think pretty much the 1, a little bit lower in class than these. Let's look at the 7. Yeah, better on class than 7. Just fits a little bit better. Probably my, you know, tier 1, and then, you know, 7, you know, using the 7 too. And then maybe a tier 2 on the 2, just in case he kind of blows the 3 out of the water. But yeah, 1's kind of the key in this race, and it just kind of looks like he plots the right way. So, and then race 8. This is a tricky one, folks. Very tricky. So you can see, I've talked about this before. This is empty quadrant 1, right? Really, pretty much. I mean, the 2's here. I just don't kind of trust that 2 as being the speed horse. But anyway, it's an empty quadrant. So I'm looking for 2, 4, and 7. They seem to be horses. I like seeing squares in quadrant 3 when you have an empty quadrant 1. Those are horses that should be able to be forwardly placed and have late kicks. So if they can back the field up, they should sit the right trip. So in evaluating those 3 horses, I really look to the 4 and 7. They're better prices. And I'm going to show you a little bit on the form here. The 2, I mean, look, you can use the 2 as well. Nothing wrong with the 2. I'm just thinking maybe this horse is already peaked and you're going to take a shorter price. So that's just kind of the way I see that horse. But if you look at the 4, I think this is a horse that looks interesting. Let me just get my pen here because we're form cycle people here. So if you look early in this horse's career, right, broke maiden early, good races in non-graded stakes company. Didn't run all that well at Keeneland. Maybe he doesn't like Keeneland. Won over this track with a big B+. Okay, and that was the end of his reign until he started a new form cycle, and it was off a 117-day layoff. Didn't handle the track, so let's excuse that. It was synthetic. Let's forgive him for that. Then came back and ran a Keeneland race. This race actually came back pretty strong. Okay, so he did improve 10 points on the OptixFig scale. So this is 3rd race off a layoff. I think he gets a softer field in this race. He could be forwardly placed in this. The horse handles 9 furlongs, right? The distance is not going to hurt this horse. I see another move forward makes him dangerous, especially at a big price. Okay, so that's one of the horses that I consider in this race. The other one is the number 7. That's another horse that potentially can, I think, get forwardly placed, especially if the intent is there to get forward. There's just no pace in this race. It's going to get forward and keep going. And the first intention that tells me maybe that's possible is the assignment of Luis Saez, right? For Joe Sharp. Now, you got to be careful. This horse comes out of the Pletcher barn. They got rid of him. They changed ownership here. So what's that all about? Don't know. This horse obvious has back class, right? I mean, you can see he's grade 1. Placed in the Champagne. And notice this, I mean, that was an 8 furlong race. We got a stretch comma here. That means we thought this horse would be better actually as the distance got longer. Hasn't really panned out that way so far, but let's face it, the Bluegrass was a tough race. And this race was off a long layoff, right? So maybe we can forgive some of that. Gets Saez, gets a race that's paceless pretty much. There's another horse at 12-1 in the morning line is worth a shot because, he's kind of fast enough, especially look, I mean, this horse ran a 97 as a 2-year-old. So don't know what kind of shape he's in, but Pletcher kind of, released this horse. So I don't know what the deal was on the change in ownership. So you got to be a little weary, but at 12-1, you got to include this horse in your pick 4. So 4 and 7 for me in here. That's kind of where I'm going to be headed. And, that's it. So that's the pick 4 from Churchill. I wish you the best of luck. More for Optics. Check us out on OptixEQ on Twitter and also at OptixEQ.com. That's our website. And this weekend we're going to be doing the Green Report for Saturday, Sunday, Monday. It's Memorial Day weekend, and it'll be included if you buy the silver plan. So that's it for me, John Doyle. Thanks for listening, and good luck at the races.